Hi, get ready with me for a final round interview. Now, we've talked a lot about interviews and prepping for them, but that was definitely coming from a place of like a first round interview. And now I am on my third and I believe final with the person I would be directly reporting to. So I figured it'd be helpful to go over how to handle different levels of interviews differently. So in this instance, I started a couple of weeks ago with a first round interview with, I would say, somebody in a similar position, just in a different department and actually in a different state, because this is for a more corporate job, but still in the government relations sphere. And so I talked to them. They basically walked through the position itself, what it would be like, the differences coming from the public sector, working on Capitol Hill, to the private sector. And honestly, I would describe it as like a vibe check. Then I don't know, less than a week went by and I heard from them. They wanted me to do a second round interview, this time with somebody in the government relations section of the company who's been there for a long time. And that was great. Honestly, that person just gave me a lot of insight to like what the work would look like and what this job would look like. And again, I would call it like a vibe check, because at the end he said to me, well, clearly you're somebody who's very polished and experienced, and I had a great time talking with you. And it was very conversational as opposed to like question, which was really nice. And now I'm on to the third and I believe final round, but you know, a lot of places won't actually call anything a final round, just in case they do have to do any additional steps. It's a nice kind of expectation settings trick, is to not explicitly say this is the final round of something. And so this one is with the person I would actually be reporting to in this position. And I think it's for them to get to know me as much as for me to answer any questions that they have and kind of continue to show my experience. But as somebody who does more executive, administrative, operational support, I've almost never had a process where I haven't met with the principal that I'd be reporting to, because I think it's really important for them to get to know the people that they're going to be working with really closely. So I'm excited to have gotten to this round. I think it means that I'm a finalist, if not maybe hopefully the candidate. But how did I treat these different types of interviews differently? That is the question. I talked a lot about general interview prep, and so that's kind of what I would consider what I did for that first round interview. But then it's really dependent on the company or organization that you're applying to, how they want to handle things from there. So I always keep a notebook of all of my notes from every step in a process that I have, and so I still had all my information generally about this company written down, so I didn't have to redo that research. So then for each step, what I do is make sure that I have the information on the person who is interviewing me. And sometimes they don't explicitly say who it is, but in many instances when they send you a calendar invite, that person's email should be on there, or maybe their assistant's email. And then you can do a little digging into who you're talking to and prep for them personally. And by prep for them personally, I just mean quick Google searches, checking their LinkedIns, and getting some basic information. How long have they been at the place you're interviewing at? Have they held other positions there? What did they do beforehand? And then even things like their education or potentially where they're from, if they have that listed, is good to have on hand, because you can then kind of naturally maybe slide in some relatable conversation topics based on that. And aside from just knowing the person you're talking to, I think as you get more rounds of interviews within the same corporation or organization, you want to make sure you're preparing for deeper questions Because that first round is probably really surface level, tell us about your experience, yada yada. But as you go on, they are trying to learn more about you, and so you want to be as prepared as possible. So a good example for how I prepared for my second round interview for this particular job, like I mentioned, it's in the government relations sector of a corporation. And so while I had basic knowledge of the corporation and what they do, I, in the second round, prepared a little more heavily by diving into their website and their policy sections, their government relations sections. They did actually have that on there. And so that was really helpful because then it kind of gives you a glance into their priorities, any programs that they partake in. And that really treated me well because as I was talking to this interviewer in the second round, he actually asked what I found exciting and interesting about the company itself, and I was able to point to a really cool program that I had seen on their website. And while you should have more information and details about a company, if you are meeting with somebody new, you do want to have what I call your elevator speech ready, because they may say, hey, you know, we know you've been interviewing, but we haven't met yet. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. And it's okay if that is more or less the same elevator speech you gave in your first round interview, because this person wasn't there for that. And actually, I think I can talk more about elevator speeches another time because I have a lot to say about them and how to get them ready to go and polished. But let's stick to talking about later round interviews. And then of course at this point, you know, there's going to be the why this company or organization question. So you absolutely need to have those ready. I'd have those ready during your first round interview. There is a chance somebody might ask you then, but I would almost guarantee it as you get later into these rounds. And then of course, having your questions prepped for them. You should absolutely never leave an interview without having asked questions of the person interviewing you. And so I definitely keep like stock questions ready to go. And actually I can do another video about my stock questions. And so you can absolutely have those on hand, ready to go, ones that are able to be asked during any round of an interview process. But something I would flag for these later round interviews is that sometimes those people that you've already talked to could be in the interview. And so something you can do if you genuinely want to ask that same question of anyone new you're talking to is just to say something like, hey, I know I already talked to so-and-so about this, but I'm really curious to get your perspective. And that's a good way of saying, I'm acknowledging I already asked this question, but I want to hear this new person's perspective. And that being said, while you can have your stock questions ready to go to ask of this new person, I would also prep some deeper questions for deeper into the interview process. The same way they're going to ask you deeper questions, you should have ones ready to go as well. And by deeper questions, I just mean ones more specific to the role. So like if in the first round you're asking, what's a typical day look like for this role? Then maybe in the second round, you're asking, how would you define a successful or good day in this role? Because then you're letting that person tell you what they're looking for in a candidate. And then hopefully you can circle back to say, oh, well, that's so great because I absolutely bring A, B, and C trait that you just mentioned based on X, Y, Z experience that we have talked about or that I can talk to you about right now. And now for this final round that I'm in. So this is me actually talking to the person that I will be reporting to and a very high up person at this corporation. So I want to be the most prepared that I have been the entire time so that I can really impress them. Because honestly, by the time you're getting to these second, third round interviews, and especially if you're meeting with the principal that you'll be working with, odds are you're one of like maybe 2 or 3 people that have gotten this far. And so you don't want to leave anything on the table. You want them to know everything they need to know about you and impress the hell out of them so that they walk away saying, forget those other candidates. This is who I want on my team. So how I prepare a little differently for this one. The good news is I know about the company. I even know a little bit more about the specific department from my second round interview. And I know about the person I'm interviewing with because I always knew that this was the person I'd be reporting to. And so I had looked them up from the first round just so I was ready to go in case any specific questions about this principal were asked during that first round. So with all of that basic research out of the way, it has allowed me to just take time to review it, look up anything I feel like maybe I was missing from those first couple rounds as I was talking to people, and just prep some really good and thoughtful questions to ask this person. Because again, they're very high up in this company, and the fact that I'm getting time with them is a big deal. So I don't want to waste their time. I'm going to go ahead and assume that this interview will be fairly quick. They don't have a lot of time when they're this high up. I can say, for example, when I interviewed with my last boss, who is a United States Senator, I talked with her for anywhere between 5 and 7 minutes. And, you know, at 24, I walked out being like, well, definitely not getting that job because she talked to me for such little time. I literally got an offer the next day. So it's not about, oh, wrong thing. Here's the right thing. It's not about quantity of time. It's about the quality of time and the impression that you make of them, make on them in whatever time you are given. Now, as far as preparing physically for the interview, this is virtual. I'll be on Teams again. So I want to look nice. I want to look put together. It is hair wash day for me, and I don't like to immediately blow my hair out the day that I wash it. So instead, I just wash it. I put my air dry stuff in it, and I'm going to pull it back into like a nice slick claw clip, which is fine, honestly. I think for virtual interviews, especially, just looking clean, put together, and presentable is the most important. It's also a Friday here in Washington, D.C. It is going to be nearly 60 degrees today and this weekend. And so in full disclosure, I'm going out with a friend for happy hour. Then I'm meeting my husband out. And so I have other stuff I need to do later. So I want to make sure that my face is good to go. I can just freshen up before I head out. And then I can just do my hair really quickly later on before I go out. Also, hair wash day, where I do my purple shampoo, is so funny to me, especially when I'm due to go get my color redone. It's like, look at how dark my hair looks because my roots are really dark. And then the purple shampoo it makes it more silvery, I guess you could say, because I pull really warm. And so the purple shampoo helps get rid of that brass, but it does make it look really dark when it's wet. So that's kind of funny. Okay, all of my hair care needs aside, in summary, as you are getting later round interviews, you want to be more and more prepped for every single round. Make sure you know who you're talking to. It's okay to ask if you have no way of knowing, if it's not in the email, if they're not on the calendar invite. Totally fair to ask who you're talking to so that you can be as prepared as possible, and just being extra thoughtful. Essentially, if this company or organization or whatever is willing to put more time into you with each round of these interviews, you need to be putting in more time into prepping for those interviews. You want them to be equal amounts. If not, you should actually be putting in more because you want this job. Hopefully, they also want you, but you want to give them a reason to want you. So, all that being said, if I am talking to somebody this high up at a company today, I am going to go in as if I already work for her and meet the expectations she has set. And I'm just really excited. I've gotten a couple of interviews, late round interviews and offers recently, but this is one that I'm actually really excited about. And so that's hard because sometimes you're a little more nervous for those, but I think it'll be okay. But as always, be on time, be prepared, and wish me luck.